Welcome to Beyond the Signboard, where you get the opportunity to learn all there is to know about your real estate journey from professionals who are passionate about property. I'm Amy Bennett, your host, and I look forward to providing you with education, inspiration, and a behind-the-scenes look at the world of real estate. Well, let's start with a dance to me because
why not?
That music's probably got everyone bopping along. I am so delighted to have a very special guest who has flown a long way to be here, the beautiful Demi Patterson. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. Honestly, it's worth the 26-hour flights.
The lost baggage?
Yeah, the lost baggage to be here. It's seriously an honour and a privilege to be on your podcast.
Oh, I am so excited for us to share a conversation before we get started, and we have a beautiful friendship which has developed over a number of years. But for a little bit of background, Demi is an incredible motivational keynote speaker with her business, Confident Happy Women. She inspires every day. In fact, you know, we just spoke recently about how many people enjoy your social media snippets and inspiration, and you do certainly, even just with those posts, inspire so many people and they look for it. In addition to that, she was a former founder of Demi International, which we will hear a lot about, an incredible trailblazer in every industry she's ever been, a formidable, powerful woman, and a recent author of The One, Meeting and Choosing Your Ideal Partner, which I'm so excited, but look, so many other things in between those careers, but yeah, incredibly honoured to have you here.
Oh, thanks so much. That's an introduction and a half, so I'm going to steal that so yeah. I can use it. Yeah.
You can.
Thanks so much.
Oh, my pleasure. And look, we can sort of chat back to how we really got to know each other, and it was with another hat actually, which was with your cooking school.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So when I was at the Chamber of Commerce, I certainly had always, known Demi International when I was here growing up on the Sunshine Coast. But when you had your cooking school, so you are a phenomenal chef, the best seafood chowder on the planet.
Oh, great.
But so many things to you, which is why I'm so excited and honoured for you to be a guest. So let's have a little trip down memory lane.
All right.
Let's hear your journey, because there is, some really incredible key, lessons and learnings for the listeners.
Sure. Well, look, to think that I've mostly always worked with women.
Yeah.
My entire life from when I was very young, because my mum was in fashion. And in Athens we had our own boutique, we had our own textiles factory. And at such a young age, I was left in charge of seeing what the women were doing, making sure they were working. And instead of making sure they were working, I found that I was just making sure that they were happy.
Amazing.
As much as a little child can do.
Yeah, incredible.
And I saw from that young age what joy that gave me. Mm-hmm. And then fast forward to me having Demi International.
So that was you arriving in Australia?
No. I arrived in Australia when I was only 7 years old.
Yeah, I know. So that was a big shift, wasn't it, for you?
Yeah, it really was, because when I came to Australia, I didn't know the language.
Just so incredible to even fathom what that was like.
Starting school, one, when you don't know the language, two, when you look so different to all the other, blue-eyed, white-skinned, freckly children to me, and it didn't help that my mum made me feta and salami sandwiches, instead of peanut butter. All I wanted was a peanut butter sandwich from the tuck shop.
Yeah, I always think of that scene in One Boy, where he's got beautiful food for lunch. That's just so different, isn't it? Vegemite sandwich.
Yeah. So I actually got into cosmetics in my very, very early 20s because I already had the skin therapy qualification. And in my cosmetic journey, as using your word, is I learnt that I was a really good trainer and a really good educator. So then I went and got my qualification as a trainer and assessor, and kept my studies up to this day.
Yeah, you're really passionate, aren't you, about continual learning?
Yeah, and now I can literally go into any workplace and do their assessing of all their policies and procedures. So, yeah, I love it. I just love learning. And because I love learning, I love teaching. And what a better way to influence young women but to open your own college.
Yeah, it was just amazing.
The audacity.
Right? Tell us about it, because it was you were a pioneer, with what you did. So chat through for those that don't know the story.
Look, there weren't as many really good, say, beauty colleges in Brisbane.
What were people studying through, TAFE or?
Yeah, so what happened is a lot of them were doing courses from modelling academies.
Sure.
So what I did was I wrote a course, went to a modelling academy and said, I want to teach this course. They said, that's a phenomenal idea. Let's have your paperwork and, we'll teach it. I said, no, I want to teach this course.
Yeah.
I wrote this course. I own it. And by the way, I still own it.
Yeah.
And I think I can do it through your modelling academy. And that's how it started.
Okay.
So then when I moved to the Sunshine Coast, I did the same thing. I approached a modelling agency and I taught at a modelling agency here on the Sunshine Coast in Maroochydore and up in Noosa.
Yeah.
So that's how I started, and I could see that there was some, like what they call beauty schools.
Yes.
But from having treatments at salons, I thought, I don't know what these people are learning.
Yes.
But it's not good, and I just thought, I'm going to open my own college.
Yes.
Now, think about this for a moment. I had been a single parent. My kids had, grown up because I had them so young too. They'd grown up, started their own lives. But I just took the equity that I had in my house.
Yeah.
To me, equity is the word, right?
Yeah.
So I took the equity of my house, took out a massive loan, and opened my own college.
Just so unheard of, isn't it? I mean, honestly.
And someone said to me, what do you think you're doing? There are 6 other beauty schools here. How do you think you can compete with them? And I'm like, well, I've seen what the other 6 beauty schools are doing and I want to do it my way.
And it allowed your clients, students, they would receive, I guess a more vast qualification, did they as well?
Yeah, look, first of all the other beauty schools offered a course that went for a year.
Mm-hmm.
But some people didn't want to do a course that went for a year. Some people wanted to open a Brazilian waxing salon, which was a big thing in the late 90s, especially early 2000s.
Especially in a beach-going area like the Sunshine Coast.
So why would they want to do a whole year's qualification?
Yep. So you could specialise, could they? Amazing.
So what I did was I started writing courses that were specialised in every area.
Yeah, amazing.
And teaching them separately. Mm-hmm. However, my vision was I'm not one that imitates what other people do. I never look up their website to do what they do, to see what they do. I have my own path and my own set of ethics that I live by. So I never set out to be different. I just set out to do what I felt was right by my students and by what will end up becoming is their clients.
Mm-hmm. So you were encouraging them to, I guess, have the fundamentals, not just of providing a great service, but also for business as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, amazing.
That was a big thing because whether your student wanted to have their own day spa or whether they wanted to become a makeup artist, you see salons opening 1 minute and closing the next, like most businesses.
Of course, absolutely.
So I wanted them to have the longevity. So, of course, I was teaching them business because I used to teach business. I used to teach the diploma of business, the advanced diploma of business, the diploma of management. So all that, was coupled in with Demi International. But the biggest thing, was I wanted to be the example and the mentor that these women really needed.
Absolutely.
So we wouldn't compromise on quality of training. I wasn't going to compromise on quality of skincare that we used, what the students used to practice with.
And I have had a number of visits with students there. It's definitely a must-do to be treated and just to help them feel comfortable with the process. I've always loved, going there. I had a friend that was studying beauty therapy and have had a number of facials and massages.
It's such a treat.
Yes.
That I really miss that aspect of it. Having a massage every week was just the bomb.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So there were 6 when I started. 11 years later when I started, I was doing over 70 hours a week, to build my business.
Incredible.
Because it's hard work.
Yes.
And then by the time I sold 11 years later, I wanted to leave a legacy. And I was the last man standing. There were no other beauty schools because the people that wanted to undercut me in price had gone broke.
Yeah.
The people that had thought that it was just easy money and they would give substandard training ended up being shut down by the government because they didn't pass their accreditation. Last man standing.
Yeah. Last woman standing, might I add.
That's even better.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, of course, now I think there's 6 of them.
Yeah.
So I set out to leave a legacy.
Incredible.
And I've done that. So, I'm so happy.
You've honestly, as I said, you've literally blazed through so many industries, which is amazing. Chat us through what life is like now with your keynote speaking, and then we'll get to the book because I have a special spot in my heart for the book.
Oh, I'm glad.
Yeah, let's chat about your role and how you can inspire women in your current role.
Okay. With my current role, I guess it's no surprise that I mostly speak to women and with women because that's been my whole career, is building women up. So while I was living here full time, I had one-on-one clients.
Yes.
And they were actually referred to me by a psychologist. And where I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist, what I am is a confidence builder, a success strategist. So where I was a success strategist in business, I've taken those success strategies, because success is success, right? And what's more important than being successful in your own personal life and in your relationships. So I took that and I got known as the person that can take someone that feels broken and build their self-esteem and build the respect that they have in themselves. And honestly, I just feel so privileged to be able to do that.
It's incredible.
Yeah, so that's what I was doing here before I moved.
Yeah.
One of the big reasons for the move, other than the fact that we live in an amazing location in Crete, was most of my professional keynote speaking assignments have been overseas.
Yeah.
So they're in the US, they're in the UK, they're in Europe. And it's a very quick plane trip for me.
I know, did you say to me that you were recently in Spain?
Yes,
Yeah.
and it's only a few hours on the plane.
Yeah, it's not 26 hours to come on a podcast.
Exactly, yeah. So, you have a cup of coffee and a biscuit and you're there.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So, yeah, it's really nice to be appreciated and to be constantly asked. And the more of these speaking engagements I do, the more involved I am in women's issues.
Yeah.
And because I always will be a championer of women, I get really involved.
Yeah.
So I get in the reeves with, showing the world that they can't treat women the way some people decide that it's okay to treat women.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it takes such courage and strength, and it's not a dissimilar thread that weaves its way through a number of these conversations. Is obviously pushing through glass ceilings. I know. That there would be a myriad of stories that you could share about, things that you've achieved. But I think what you've been able to do is now moving away from a one-on-one interaction with your client. It's now expanded with your keynote. And now with relationship advice with The One, I was absolutely honoured to MC your book launch last year.
You did such an amazing job.
Thank
Honestly,
you.
I just felt so happy that I had somebody that I can put in charge of one of the most special things in my life, and you did such an amazing job. So I can't thank you enough.
Oh,
really.
my pleasure. It was a little bit nerve-wracking, but always say yes to helping friends, which is most important. The book is absolutely going gangbusters. I know you've recorded it as an audiobook as well. I literally had my pink highlighter out taking notes with regards to all of the advice that you recommended. Chat to us a little bit about the book before we get into how we kind of got to work together and your journey with me.
Yeah, okay. Over decades, I have been asked the same questions from young women and older women in relation to relationships. And, I've had some not so fantastic relationships in the past myself. And as you get older, you certainly realise that there are some fundamental things that you can do to have an amazing relationship. And that's why the book isn't just called The One, it's how to meet and choose. And the choosing is super important, your ideal partner. And just about every chapter in the book, including how to get that ring, is from questions that people have directly asked me. So when I decided to write the book, it was really I can't be face-to-face with every person now.
That's right.
But the book is a way to get these actual practical skills and knowledge and confidence in people's ability to choose the right person by giving them the book. And so it's an international thing. Like, I've just won an international award for the book.
Oh, I have no doubt. It, like I said, it was an absolute game changer, and everyone that has read it has said the same. What I love, I guess, probably my key takeout is that it's really about how you are responsible yourself. So, so often there's a blame game, isn't there, in relationships, but really what you're doing is, again, it's an empowerment of self. But also, I guess, a little peek behind, probably some private sessions you've had and questions that are repeatedly asked, and kind of similar to what we do with the podcast, which is about dispelling the myths of real estate and I guess giving a bit of an insight. The book's the same in that premise.
Yeah, 100% it is, because it's okay to read all these things like you do on social media, okay, but the doing is really hard. And I think we are living in a time where we have so much bombardment of information, but you know what we're not getting? Practical skills and practical things that we can do and say. So when he says this to me, or when he behaves in this manner, what do I do?
Yeah, that's right.
See?
Yeah.
So the book actually gives you practical things. When she says this, you respond with, not react, you respond with this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have you thought about, and key words. In all the conferences I go to worldwide, when the attendees have an opportunity to ask me questions, they're the questions that I get asked is, what wording should I use to to get my point across, to get her to listen to me, to get him to listen to me. And that's what was missing.
I think that's a big thing that you've recently said as well. It's about being heard, isn't it? That ultimately, that's probably the biggest aha moment, is just that, people in a relationship, and that's not just, a marriage, that's all sorts of relationships, business interactions as well, isn't it?
That's why I said what applies to a successful business
Yes.
also applies to a successful relationship. And it's like people haven't made the connection before, because, again, we're so keen to be heard that we're not actually listening.
So true.
Because everyone wants to talk. But while they're supposed to be listening, sometimes they're just thinking about what they're going to say as soon as there's a gap.
It's a good life lesson, isn't it? Yeah. I know that's certainly something I think with age and time you kind of realise that, or, not jumping in or thinking ahead. And I always, find it funny with the podcast because, this isn't pre-rehearsed, we've had a bit of a conversation about the flow, but really it is just a conversation amongst two friends. And so you kind of just, let it go as it is. Always enjoyable. But yes, I'm very guilty of that, probably more so in the hosting duty of thinking, what's next?
I think that's forgiven.
Good. Well, let's have a chat about, I guess, a real estate related connection to us. And really this is about allowing the listeners just to kind of, I guess, journey through the process in engaging an agent and what that experience is like. Because I did have the honour and the utmost appreciation for you entrusting me with my very first sale in real estate, and we've then journeyed on to have an additional transaction together. So for me, when I thought about who I would invite to share, I guess, their journey engaging me as an agent, certainly it wasn't to big note myself or for any accolade, but more so just to kind of, explain our journey together and what that looked like.
Okay. Because from our first interaction all those years ago, I actually started following you on socials, and I got to actually see your personality and your work ethic just through socials. And I was so blown away because, unlike a lot of what we see on socials is this facade of what things really are, you always show your true self. And sometimes you sort of say, look, warts and all.
Absolutely.
I'm tired today.
Yeah.
I've done. Yeah. And it's your personality and how dynamic you are. So when I saw that you were going to enter into the real estate realm, I do like to be the first.
I like it. I spot the trend.
And that's when I contacted you and I said, look, I want you to sell my house. Now, my house isn't just an investment. It's the house that I had purchased by myself when I owned Demi International, and it was like my first mortgage as a single person.
Absolutely.
And I had that, and I just loved it, So it was like, I'm giving you my baby. Yeah. Now you really need to take care of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, there was never ever, and I don't think I've even told you this, but there was never even a question that I would get somebody else, because I have acquaintances that are real estate agents.
And to take a risk as well too, that's...
I didn't see it as a risk.
Well, yes.
I honestly didn't see it as a risk.
Yeah,
I knew that you would work hard and that you would get me a good result. Guess what? I never ever thought you would work as hard or get such a phenomenal result.
We had such a journey with that property. I was just
But
thinking.
it was so quick.
We don't muck around.
Wham, bam, thank you,
We're
ma'am,
off.
you know.
But, but it was all measured, wasn't it? So, you were phenomenal. You took on recommendations. The property had been leased. And so obviously that care and maintenance that you yourself would have as a homeowner had done. So we had a really amazing, I remember door knocking the neighbours, giving them a coffee card and saying, hey, tomorrow and the next couple of days it's going to be a bit noisy. We had the pressure washer. I remember he was in the pool. We had lights changed, painting.
Trees
Tree
cut
lopper.
down.
Yeah. It was literally, and I guess, that's my sort of project management, hat on, but the trust in that process. And I think that was, I started this career and, obviously I've been in real estate for 5 years prior, but I started this journey as a sales agent, having learnt from everyone else, but also knowing I didn't want to cut corners, that there would never be a time where you as a client wouldn't miss the opportunity to get a premium price. And if that meant that I had to courageously say, hey, you know what, I think the property needs X, Y, and Z. We had some styling. I remember we moved plants, didn't we? We had birds of paradise in the backseat of the car. But what we created was a beautiful sanctuary. So, and in the absence of somebody living in the property, we had a wellness yoga room. Do you remember?
I do, yeah, I do. In fact, I was looking through those photos just recently because, when I had purchased that house all those years ago, never did I think that I would get the price that, you were able to get for us. Ever did I think that.
Yeah, we wouldn't have ever been able to predict what has happened and transpired within our industry and also here on the coast.
But, like when I'm giving couples advice or single women advice as far as their finances go, I always say, why do you think real estate is called real? Because it's the only thing that's real. Bricks and mortar, that's what's real.
I always remember you saying that to me. It sticks. It sure does. Yeah. And, it has certainly helped with your journey, to now where you are. And we'll
absolutely
chat through that.
Look, Will, the love of my life, he was trying to teach and educate our granddaughter the other day. She's going to be 18 soon. Mm-hmm. And we're talking to her about saving for a deposit for a house.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we sat her down and started explaining to her what equity is.
Because it's not taught, is it, in schools? I mean, life skills, things like that.
No.
Without parents, grandparents that care. I mean, there's a super saver scheme that is so undersubscribed that's available, especially for, teenagers, first home buyers where they get so much support, but it's just that lack of education or people being pointed in the right direction as well.
Yeah, and really she was blown away, and we've had this conversation with 20 and 30-something-year-olds.
Sure.
She was blown away that we could take the equity from one place without having $1 as deposit. Because there was equity, we could buy our next place.
It's a great story.
And then the
to
next
share.
place.
Exactly, absolutely. But you're exactly right. I mean, even it sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? That I had now been in the industry for 7 years. I didn't probably think about that myself until we were in a situation 2 years ago where we did that. And it's about surrounding yourself with people that are smarter than you, that have expertise, that are professionals. And you know what, it doesn't, I mean, certainly, if, my mum I know tried forever. I mean, she gave me the Barefoot Investor as a Christmas present after about 10 years of talking about it. And I think that, it does stick and it's when the time's right. But gosh, don't you think, you did, but I wish I could go back 10 years ago and go, God, I wish I had have got into property or whatever that looks like in life, or ask the questions about money.
I have to credit my mum for the fact that, she wasn't exactly around a lot, but when she was, she always said, make sure that you get your own home.
Yeah.
Make sure you get your own home. If you do nothing else, get your own home. And I'm so glad she did because, back when I used to rent, when I was, 18, 19, the landlord could just come in anytime they want.
I know. Yeah.
They could just knock on the door and just demand to come in. And, that happened to me a few times when I was on my own. And I was so
Not safe.
scared.
Of course.
But there was so many other things, and I made sure that I could, and I really fought hard to get my first home when I was 21. That was my goal. Like,
Yeah.
I've always been a big, goal-orientated person, and I was determined when I was 21 I would have my own home, and I did. But it was a fight.
Look, I have no doubt about that. But knowing you as a person and the tenacity and courage that you have, but also, it's such a common theme that we have over, when I have guests on, success isn't easy. It is insanely hard work. And I think, we've always had that mutual respect and recognise that in each other. And I think if that's in your DNA, you understand that, when you scratch beneath the surface, we talk about it all the time, the life that people have on social media versus, what the reality is. And I guess that's where, that being able to kind of be warts and all. And I think it's very much so that's personally and professionally for me. So, that's why, the whole idea of the podcast was around that is just showing that it's not just putting a signboard up. As you know, I mean, we've now celebrated 2 sold stickers on signboards. Was it a piece of cake? Was it putting a sticker up? Absolutely not. But, there's also that respect for the client. But it would have been the same with you getting your first mortgage. To get to those, big results takes leaps of faith, hard work, determination, sleepless nights.
Yeah. And as far as that goes, what I want to share with people that haven't done it is, it's not easy. No one is saying that it's easy, and you have to fight, and sometimes you have to fight hard. Like when we found what we ended up calling Beach Shack on Oceanic Drive, even though we could certainly facilitate the mortgage, because I work for myself, the bank wanted a pay slip.
Yeah.
I work for myself. I don't have a payslip.
That's right. There's all those
challenges.
challenges.
I don't know an entrepreneur that has a payslip.
Yeah.
And so they kept saying no.
Yeah.
You know how many no's we got? 11.
I love that you know the number of no's. Oh, so help someone that says no to you.
But guess what?
Yeah.
When I was training my salespeople and my management people, my saying was, every no brings me closer to a yes.
I love it. Absolutely.
Every no brings me closer to a yes. And Will, talk about tenacious.
Yeah.
He was like, well, what else do you need?
Yes.
Well, what else do you need? Oh, no, but you don't have this. But what else do you need? What else can I get? And every day he was on the computer, everything that the banks asked for.
He was there.
He was getting bang, bang. And in the end, I really think they just got sick of us and said, all
Give him the
right,
money.
all right, just give them the money,
Yeah.
And I'm so glad because that property will set us up for our future.
Yeah, it's amazing. And you were able to forecast and make decisions based, on property decisions for your future and what that looks like. So we had our first transaction together, which was wonderful. More than a transaction, obviously that was a gift to be able to represent you in the sale of such a beautiful space. I know one thing, thinking back to that as well, it was the birth of the virtual styling, the printed virtual styling on the easel.
Yes.
But
that's like genius.
It's
genius.
It was so funny. Before we had your sunset sneak peek, I know my husband and a team member's partner were, ferociously trying to put together the easel. And for those that are listening, essentially when we have a vacant property, we engage a local business, Box Brownie, to virtually style a home, and so people could visualise what a home looks like with furniture. Obviously, with a vacant space, people like you and I can probably envisage how we would have furniture. But then what we do is we take that a step further, because feedback always from the market was it's really disappointing to see that online and then see an empty shell. So we had that printed and we had it positioned in the living room. So just to really give that utilisation. But that was wonderful to be able to, you really trusted those ideas. We had a sunset sneak peek. I remember we interviewed all of the team that came through with their feedback. And like you said, I mean, that was, a very a swift process in getting you, a special result that allowed you to move forward.
Yeah. And so I didn't trust you once, we trusted you twice.
Yeah, and with your home, and I mean, obviously, Santorini was equally played a really big part in your journey, but then, life changed for you, didn't it? Plans changed?
Yeah, absolutely. We decided that we wanted to spend at least half the year in Crete.
Mm-hmm.
One for the lifestyle, the Mediterranean lifestyle, the weather, and
you don't need to sell it to anyone, girlfriend.
And the fact that it was easier for me to go to my keynote speaking events, and all my networking events. So when we went over and found a place that just blew our mind, it was a case of Will looked at me almost like, we're going to have to get a bigger boat. And because I said, Addie, can we afford this? And what he didn't tell me on that particular day, because he just said, we'll work it out.
I love
that.
Which
I love a man that says, we'll work it out.
Such a team.
Don't say no to women. They don't like it. And so then when we could sit down and talk, he said, look, I know we've just spent a fortune doing up Grand Parade.
Yeah.
But if we want that, we're going to have to give up that. I said, okay.
and literally you had just waited how many months for that incredible oven?
I waited 6 months for the oven that I chose for Grand Parade to come from the UK.
Yeah, because it was kind of post-COVID and, that home, still people speak about it.
Look, I designed the front gate, so there isn't a front gate like it.
Yes.
I designed the kitchen with Italian tiles. I just love that home.
We'll talk about the neon sign. We were just talking about that recently, that you could see from space.
You can see it from space, I'm sure.
Mine too. I've got a pink one at my house.
Yeah.
Such an iconic and beautiful build, and allowed you the opportunity. I remember when you called me, it was a shock, wasn't it? Because it wasn't anything that any of us forecasted, but what an amazing opportunity. It was winter, we had the fireplace on. I remember the sunset sneak peek at that property. I felt like all of Kawana Island was there. It was a party without you in it.
Yeah, I was so proud of it because I've always had a penchant for interior design and I think I'm pretty good at it.
Agreed.
So, it was hard to let that house go as well because I really do get attached. But I had just finished the design. We've just finished it, But it was really weighing up what part of our life's journey we were at and what we wanted to achieve next. And it wasn't like we were leaving nothing behind.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think also, too, it's a moment in time, isn't it? I mean, coming up to, is it nearly 10 years ago that Will came into your life?
Yeah.
And, again, you look back and think, what that life was and what it is now. And life is so precious, isn't it, to enjoy. And, your trajectory changes in life. And I think you're one to really adapt and flow, very universe-led, aren't you?
Absolutely. Talk about, I met my ideal partner when I was put on the wrong island in Fiji.
It's so funny.
Like, who does that happen to?
And tell us about that, because I love that story. Were you happy about that?
Being on the wrong island? No.
I could imagine.
As I say in my book, because I have a chapter called My Hallmark Movie, which I know they'll make a movie out of how we met and how the whole thing came about. But no, I had trusted a real estate agent to book me on one island, paid for it. And I said, look, I want to be in a 5-star resort, drinking cocktails all day long and have a spa attached that I can have massages. And I painted the picture. She booked me the ideal location. Then she went on holidays just before I was due to go. She gave my booking over to another lady. The other lady rushed through it. She'd got me mixed up with somebody else.
Oh, dear.
That basically booked something just up a little bit from backpackers.
Just up. I don't know if there is.
So, well, the fact that the shower was a bucket that you pull with a cord sort of gives it away.
You're painting a picture, yes.
So, yeah, for anyone that has read that, or they actually, there's a magazine here in Australia called That's Life magazine.
Yeah.
They print like millions of copies.
Yeah.
They've done a 2-page spread on us on that story.
Yeah, I just think that's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, meant to be, isn't it?
Yeah,
and look, a blessing in disguise.
Sometimes your future lies on the path that you take to avoid it.
Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it? And we just sort of shared a story off air as well before about so often what we think is the right, move or the right direction is actually, it's not, and it's trusting in that process and, allowing, that's a lot of what we do in real estate every day is making sure that the process is correct, but also, just trusting and ensuring that everything's done correctly gets you to where, but there's hiccups in life, isn't there? There's wrong trips booked or, we're just saying too, luggage missing, you've had a few weeks without beautiful clothes and things like that, but, you're here safe and that's what you kind of focus on, doesn't it?
And it was a really good opportunity for me to buy more clothes and shoes.
Hey, I like that. That's beautiful. You did visit the Clarence counter, am I right?
Of course.
Your favourite?
Of course.
Yeah. Oh, look, I just am so grateful that you're back here, and I just love all the different hats that you wear. If you weren't doing, those various roles, what would be your sort of ideal dream career?
I do feel like I'm living my dream career now. If I wasn't doing that, I think I would still be in the teaching space, mentoring space, because nothing gives me more fulfillment than showing others they can be so much more than they ever dreamt of. They can have so much more happiness than they ever thought was possible. And I'm not just a speaker, I have lived it. I have lived the really bad times and I know how to rise.
Yeah.
And that's what women can do, is they can rise. So if I wasn't working just with women every day, I would probably be doing what I used to do, and with better business development is success strategy in moving people's business from go to wow.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And property, anything exciting on the horizon? The property in Crete's going well?
It's doing fantastic. We've just finishing putting in a pool.
Amazing.
Now, Crete being an island, nothing happens overnight.
Tell us about the pool process.
So it's been, especially because we have a 14th century ruin on our property. And just imagine what that ruin has seen, because that's where people used to go and hide from enemy attack during the war. And it's on our property, so of course we have to get archaeological permission to do anything. But also, just as in Australia, in Crete, it's hard to get workers.
Of course.
So it's been an 18-month process from start to finish.
And that's also shipping material in as well?
I'm not sure about the material. For instance, we are so used to, if anyone has any tradie friends or has seen tradies here, they put things up very quickly. They use a nail gun, bang, 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 it's up. No, not over there.
Okay, old school?
To get old school, all right.
Yeah, wow.
Because to get any sort of concrete up for the pool, it's fence palings with a nail and hammer.
Yeah, wow.
Oh my God. It's been like worse than watching paint dry, watching
wow.
it. I kept saying to Will, I can't watch.
It is just going back in
but
time.
it's like, this is how we do.
Are they happy?
They're fantastic.
They're so happy.
Look, in Crete, because the Cretans and the Greeks have been there for centuries, most of them families have their own businesses. But because so many people have sought refuge in Crete and other parts of Greece, a lot of Albanians are in Crete.
Okay.
So the Albanians do a lot of the manual labour and they may have amazing qualifications, but of course that's in their country.
Correct.
And all of them have been so polite, so friendly. And
Just
me, I
grateful for
take
the
them out
opportunity.
food. Like, if I feed you, will you go quicker?
Yeah. Can you move to a nail gun?
Yeah.
So advice, obviously, being a real estate based podcast, any advice or inspiration that you could give to our listeners about their own property journey?
I think don't put it off. I think there's too much procrastination happening in people's lives, and a lot of people that come to see me as a one-on-one thing. It's because we're so worried about making a bad decision.
Correct.
And what happens is we become so, we dig our heels in and we're almost terrified of making a bad decision, so we don't make a decision at all.
And just,
and
stay
I say
with
to
what
people,
we know.
now is the right time. Now is the right time for you to look for a property that you can afford. Now, and also something I try to bring across to young ones is don't try and overextend yourself to get a property, your forever property. You're 30 years old.
Start small.
You don't need a forever property.
Yeah.
In a few years' time, you will have made such a good amount of money or such good equity, that word again,
Yes.
in this home, that you'll be able to get your next best home and your next best home,
Such great advice, absolutely.
How about you just look at the big picture instead of just looking at, I want it all now, Like when I was younger, if we could just get into our first home, we didn't care if we sat on milk crates.
Yes.
We didn't.
Of course.
Because we saved for our furniture.
Absolutely.
And that has stood me in great stead because, even when Will asked to marry me, I said, sure, you're not going to get away with it cheaply, however. And when I choose a ring, I can tell you, you're going to need to pay cash. So, because if you can't afford to pay cash, you can't afford it.
I love it.
So I always say, just save for what you want.
Yes.
I was lucky because he actually had a better job than I thought when I chose him.
You'd waited to find each other as well, so you weren't 16.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. I am often asked about investment with property. Obviously, land appreciates and homes depreciate. But definitely I agree. I think the time is yesterday. And I think also, like I said, it's extending your professional network, getting advice. There are so many government grant and incentives and things like that. But certainly also now there's some new abilities to be able to purchase with family and lots of great opportunities. So I always say, it's great to be able to. I went to my first home buyers seminar. Gosh, it would have been maybe 15 years ago with no intention or thought that I would ever own a property. It was well before my real estate career. But I wanted knowledge and I wanted to know, okay, well, what would I need to do? Because it's not something that you just wake up overnight and go, okay, well, I'm going to save for a house or I'm going to start that process. For some people, potentially, but I would say for the vast majority of people, and that ability to be able to move from, like you said, that, renting to, purchasing a property. So we'll move away from real estate. Let's have a little bit more time to get to know you, Demi. I would love you to share your dream holiday destination.
Because I'm fortunate enough to live in two most beautiful parts of the world, here on the Sunshine Coast and in the Mediterranean, I think I would love to go to Tahiti.
Oh, nice. What would
Yeah.
what's the appeal there?
Oh, look, the Polynesian people are
Yes.
amazing. The waters are crystal clear, which is just what I love. And because Will and I scuba dive, he's obviously a scuba diving instructor. He teaches instructors,
Yes.
in his spare time.
Yeah.
So diving would be phenomenal there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I like it. We'll put it on the list.
Yeah.
Tell it. I'm kind of guessing what you're going to answer with this, but what has been the best day of your life so far?
Okay. Because I'm not a baby, I've been lucky enough to have quite a few best days of my life.
Awesome.
So let's go the last decade.
Yes.
In the last decade, I met my ideal partner, and it's honestly
Chose your ideal partner?
It's like I ordered him from the catalogue.
Yeah, amazing. He's a beautiful man.
Yeah. So meeting and choosing him, although he chose me first, to be honest, and I'm just like, no.
You've got to read the book. You've got to read the book.
He says, I got 3 rejections. And so that was 1. And 2, the day where I had all but given up to find a property in Crete,
yes.
in the location that I wanted.
Yeah.
And as the gate opened up, it was like Oprah herself went, "La!"
I love it.
It was just, and
it was everything you envisaged.
Everything.
Say that. Olive trees.
Including the olive trees, including the most amazing view of the Mediterranean right straight ahead. My head veered to the left, and there were still snow-capped mountains on the left. Behind us is an amazing gorge that used to be, used to have mills in it to mill the wheat. And I just started bawling, and we all thought, oh, no.
Call that bank. That's number 12. Yeah, it's amazing, but how beautiful to be able to still feel that moment as well, and for it to be, so important to you. And I know, aside from that decade, just so many other amazing memories. Your life is very full of incredible achievements. I have no doubt that the award or trophy cabinet would be overflowing. And that's testament to your, recent award with your book. It's, the first of many ahead. And I hope, any more books on the horizon?
Oh, look, I actually joke with people, and I stole this line from Monica in Friends, where she says, when people ask me what's my next book going to be called, which isn't true,
yes,
but it's funny because she says, marriage, it's not for everybody. And that's funny, but I think my next book would be, not yet, I think my next book would really be about, okay, so we've got past the meeting and choosing our ideal partner. Now, how are we going to make a long-term relationship not be good but be phenomenal?
Awesome.
Because it really is a partnership.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what really needs to take place, what sort of dynamic are you going to create to ensure that you literally have couple goals, So that's what my next book's going to be about.
Awesome. We look forward to it. I'm sure it's not far away. What about your favourite meal and drink? What do you like to enjoy?
Okay, now, being 100% honest, because I am a cook,
yes,
and I like to cook. In fact, that's my love language.
I know that is.
Yeah, if I cook for people, it really means I care a lot about them. My favourite meal is one that I don't have to cook.
Yeah, I love it.
Because when you are a good cook, you don't tend to be invited to people's houses for a meal very often.
I just cooked for you last week, and I was terrified.
It was so beautiful.
But it was so
good.
terrifying.
And I think, I don't care if they give me burnt toast. Yeah. If I don't have to cook it, and I can enjoy these folks' company,
yes,
that's all I want.
I like it.
But when it comes to drinks, I really love making cocktails.
Yes.
So
have you not recorded some? Yes,
I have. Yes. Yeah, I've recorded a few cocktail making videos because
it.
I like making cocktails that are a spin on a classic or completely different.
That's awesome.
But I honestly can't go by a really good espresso martini.
Nice.
And I like the little variations that are, different ones are experimenting with, so it's not just a classic.
And are they enjoying, do you have an espresso martini? Is like a cocktail's a big thing over in Crete?
They are in cocktail bars, because there's cocktail bars that just, like you sit in these amazing lounges right on the beach and people are just bringing you cocktails.
Look, there's a reason you're living there, right?
It's the best. Yeah.
So what about the Mediterranean food? Is it delicious over there?
Oh, of course. Yeah. Of course, yeah. And it's not only delicious, but it's really healthy.
So fresh as well.
Yeah, it's just it's not fatty like people think. People that haven't been there think that the food has tons of olive oil and that in it. Actual Greeks and Cretans don't drown their food with olive oil. They know that it's a flavour enhancer. So everything is fresh, and because everything is pretty much, most things are organic. Like you taste a tomato and you can see why a tomato is a fruit.
Yes.
Because it's phenomenal.
So flavoursome.
And potatoes. I didn't know potatoes was supposed to have a different flavour to what they have.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it?
So the produce is just remarkable.
It's so gorgeous. I think, my mum lives in Tassie and the soil is so nutrient rich there as well. And so I always get her to sneak some Dutch creams, potatoes in the suitcase and all of her veggies. Amazing. Well, let's wrap this up for a conversation. We could honestly talk for hours. I'm so glad we hit record, because otherwise we would have started hours before. Demi, let's finish our catch-up today with your favourite quote or saying.
Okay. This is something I live by. It's not fancy, but I feel if it gets people out of being overwhelmed. What I say sometimes when I was in business on a daily basis is keep the most important thing the most important thing.
Wow.
And I'll give you an example of why that works. In your relationship, in a marriage or a relationship, it's easy to lose focus and sometimes be so absorbed in something else that our priorities shift. Keep the most important thing the most important thing. And that helps you with your decision making. In business, when we become overwhelmed because we have so much to do, so much to achieve, we look at our diary and we think, oh, what am I going to do? Keep the most important thing the most important thing. So what do I need to do now that will make the rest of my day go smoother? What is actually the most important thing? Don't do something superfluous.
The easy things.
If there's something, And something I've taught my children and have taught my students is if you have something that's going to be difficult, a difficult conversation, for example, do it first thing in the morning.
Great advice.
Don't leave it. It's going to mess up your whole day. You're not going to be able to concentrate. Whereas you get the ugly stuff done first thing in the morning, and then you've got the rest of your day to make sure that you give 100% focus on everything you do.
And chances are, that difficult conversation's not often as difficult as you think, is it?
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all, especially because you're getting people when they're fresh too.
That's true. That's
true. You're not having these conversations when you're tired. They're tired.
That's right.
You don't know what's happened in their day. So keep the most important thing the most important thing.
I liked your little mama. What was that? Can we get that again? That little...
I usually, I don't know.
Oh my gosh, it was so cute. I felt like you were talking directly into my soul, as I know that every listener would, because I'm sure that inability, or I guess the juggle of priorities is ever present in everybody's life. But I think, ultimately, like you said, it's just going back to what's most important. You have been an absolute inspiration in my life, in
Oh,
my
thank
marriage.
you.
Thank you for your
Thank
book.
you.
I am so grateful that you flew all the way from Crete. We timed that well.
We did.
I am forever grateful for your trust in the process of selling 2 of your homes. I will forever be grateful for that. It is never lost on me what trust you gave me in that process. It was a really beautiful experience to go through. Like I said, not all sold stickers and everything like that, but my ability to be able to help you and achieve your vision of where you are now, will stay with me forever.
Yeah.
So,
but we could not have done it without you. You know how people say, "Oh, I couldn't do it without them," but you kind of could. We couldn't.
You'd be a great real estate agent.
We couldn't, you know. And as far as our real estate journey is concerned, we're not finished with you yet, Amy Bennett.
We are excited. On that note, we will wrap up and watch this space for more exciting things to come.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure, darling. Thank you for listening to this episode of Beyond the Signboard. We trust you enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed making it for you. If there are any topics you want covered in the future, make sure you reach out and let us know. Also, feedback and suggestions are appreciated, almost as much as likes, shares and downloads.